Welcome to day 218 as we begin week 32 of 66 and 26. Week 32 means we only have 20 more weeks to go in our journey to read through all 66 books of the Bible this year after this week. We are finishing today the book of Leviticus with the last 4 chapters of that Old Testament book. Some of you may be thinking, thank God we're finished with Leviticus. But I don't want us to pass quickly by a real hidden treasure in chapter 25 of Leviticus. In Leviticus 25, God gives instructions to Moses to give to the Israelites for 2 things. One is what is known as a Sabbath year. Every 7th year was to be for the people a rest for the land. They were not to plant any crops and reap any harvests. They could eat the food that came up voluntarily from the earth, leftover seed and that kind of thing, but not what they planted. They were to give the land rest, to let it lay fallow so that it would rest the actual earth. And every 7th year that was to be true. Now, we don't have any evidence that the people of Israel actually did that throughout the Old Testament, but that was the instruction given through Moses. The second thing that was given was known as the Jubilee year. So after 7 Sabbath years, so 49 years, the 50th year would be a Jubilee year. The trumpet would sound and there would be freedom given. The land would actually rest for a 2nd year in a row, in this case, the 49th year, the 7th Sabbath year, and then another year after that. God even says, you may ask, what are we supposed to eat in that year? And God says, trust me, I will provide all that you need in the year before so you have plenty to eat. But the Jubilee year was not just about the land having rest, but the land would revert back in its property ownership to the original families. The land had been divided up by God for all the 12 tribes of Israel. And sometimes there was property bought and sold among all the tribes. And in that Jubilee year, all of the land was to revert back to the original clans, the original tribes, the original families. And the point being, God gets into this in Leviticus 25, 23, and 24. The land must not be sold permanently because the land is mine, declares the Lord, and you are but aliens and my tenants. So throughout the country that you hold as a possession, you must provide for the redemption of the land. So on the Jubilee year, all of that land would revert back. And the other thing that happened in the Jubilee year was that anybody who was poor and had to sell themselves into what was known as indentured servitude or slavery, and they had actually worked for one of their fellow Israelites for no cost in order to pay off their debt. In the Jubilee year, all of those servants would go free, and all that debt would be cleared, and they could go back to their regular land ownership, their regular house ownership, and regular work. And so God was giving a provision for the people of Israel that there would be fairness and division among all the people, rich and poor, so that no one got overly rich and no one got overly poor, so that there could be great equity within the land. Now, one of the great things that makes this a treasure also is that the prophet Isaiah picks up on the idea of the Jubilee year as God speaks through Isaiah. And this is Isaiah chapter 61. God is speaking about his servant who is to come. We know that to be Jesus. And it says, the Spirit of the sovereign Lord is on me because the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives, release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. That's another way of describing the Jubilee year. This is the 50th year. So Isaiah is saying, the Lord has given me the authority to proclaim the Jubilee year, the year of the Lord's favor. And Jesus then quotes that exact passage in Isaiah 61 in Luke 4, verse 19, when he says, the Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to preach the good news. And in verse 19, it says, to proclaim the Lord's favor, the year of the Lord's favor. And Jesus then sits down, and as all eyes are on him, he says, today, this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing. So the year of Jubilee, that year when prisoners are set free, when servants return to their homes, when land is reverted back, Jesus Christ is the fulfillment of that promise of freedom, not just in land, not just in physical freedom, but in spiritual and eternal freedom. Christ has given us that. And so Leviticus 25 points us to that truth in Jesus today.